Hello and welcome to another free code session. My name is Jason Bach and we're going to work on this conditional attribute thing here. But before we do that, I'm going to go cover something else that I noticed in the last episode and that I captured it in an issue. So I noticed last time that if I put the entity framework reference in my codegen test along with all the others, they all come back as passing. But if I just run it by itself, then we see the errors. And so I'm getting a little concerned that I may be missing some that have been, like something's happening that when I do it in a list that big, and I don't know why. It has nothing to do with the include as far as I can tell. Like I took those completely out of the code and just ran them in the list. And I would have been really surprised if this had anything to do with it. I don't know exactly what's going on. But it seems like by putting it all on the list, it seems to just not report any errors. It thinks that everything's fine. Actually, now that I say that, I am kind of wondering, there's something that just went through my head and I want to make sure that I capture it. So let's say we do include and passing. So then all these should run. So this takes a while, but there's something in the output that I saw before I started recording. And now I'm wondering, did I miss something? So hold on. Let me run this and then I'll see if I see again what I thought I saw. Okay, I just wanted to verify something and my hunch was correct. When I run all of them, it does say that this step has warning or error diagnostics, but it still emits successfully, which is interesting. So when I just do the entity framework one, it says the generator step is fine, but now it emits errors. So I'm kind of like, well, what the heck? Like why would it do that? And if I get into here and I see, does generator have any, so it says severity, error, or warning, but then we just go off and do it anyway. Like we don't even care to say if there's errors. Like I can't tell if there's errors or warnings. So I'll come back to this later. I'm not going to solve this now, but I had to capture that because again, I thought there was something odd with what was being outputted and I wanted to make sure I captured that in the issue. Okay, back to the point at hand. So it's this one, which is if you have a conditional attribute on a member. And this only works for classes. I tried it for an interface and you can't put a conditional attribute on an interface member unless it probably had an implementation and then it was fine. Now I'm curious. I always get curious about these things. Well, it's also because I want to be thorough. I want to try to go down paths that I'm thinking, did that actually? So if I say interface here and then I take that, and so that has a body. But that says, yeah, you can't even do it in interface members. Yeah, whatever, prefix with I. But it won't happen on interface members at all. Okay, so you can put it on here, obviously. But when you inherit from it, what happens is we override the method. And then if you look down at the code that's being generated right now, we put this in there. And so we just need to say if the method is an override, then we don't put that attribute in there, which when I was sitting there thinking about it, the only time it would show up, because it can't be on an interface member. If it is, it's an error anyway, and the interface has to be fixed. If it showed up on a class, the only way we would care about it is because it's a virtual member and we would override it anyway. So I think if we see it, we just ignore it. Where do we do that? I think it's attribute description or something like that. Well, that's where we get the attributes, but it's method model. Somewhere in here, we're doing the get description, attribute description. So we get the attributes and then we get the description. And in here, we already have some in here that we can't emit attributes that are compiler generated, blah, 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 blah. So we could just put in here and say, we only, let me rephrase that. We do not put in the conditional attribute at all. We just don't. And then I think that should solve the problem. So this just adds to the list of things that we don't want to put in here. So let's try that. So let's say var conditional attribute is equal to, and now let's copy that and say conditional attribute. And then we say attributes where attribute has no, and it does not equal, does not equal, does not equal. And we're just going to put one in here now that says conditional attribute does not, it doesn't equal that one. Okay. So now we should just not emit it at all. So if I come into here, this should now run, and it does. So I'm going to do the dance, run all tests, run all other tests, and make sure that this isn't interfering with anything. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, everything passed, everything's working. I added a test in the integration test for it, even though it's kind of silly, but wanted to just make sure we're covering that. And I was falling on the wayside a little bit of that with the bugs, is making sure that I actually put in a test and integration test as well to make sure that it's not messing with anything there either. So it's all passing. We have one less entity framework test or condition or case or whatever you want to call it failing now. So I'll merge this, committed to all the good stuff, and then we're going to move on to the next issue. Okay, that's all merged in. We're all good. I forgot to update the changelog, so I just made that after the merge. But that's just something I always forget. I always forget to update the changelog and say, yes, I did fix something. So the next one I'm going to tackle is this one. It just brings a smile to my face because it's just funny that we actually ran into a method that has over 16 parameters. So where this comes up is where you are trying to do the callback or the handler. It's in a couple of places. So I think at least one. So I think what we need to do is put in the logic to say, I need to make a custom delegate. And the cases where that would happen are if you have over 16 members or you have optional. And I think I may be already sort of handling this. I know in another library that I've created called Partially Applied, I definitely had to handle this because there are cases where, if you had optional arguments, you can't use a func or an action. So you had to create your own custom delegate. Of course, this also gets into how do I uniquely define these, because I got to make sure they don't collide with something else and I don't create more than one or something like that. Granted, this is such a small case of possibilities. This is just kind of bad when you have these many this amount of parameters. It's just bad to do this. So it's something that I would hope we don't run into too much, but I'll put a branch out there. I'll make the test case, and then we'll see how do we actually handle this. Okay, got it to fail as expected. It's actually happening in 3 cases. So it's when you do the cast here, it's just assuming, system func, and it's putting in way too many. It can't do that. And then also down here when we do the add property, and it's going to put in that the method adornments is going to have this. So we basically need to detect, hopefully in a generic, no pun intended, generic way, that when we are putting these delegates in, that in this case, and maybe when we have optional arguments, that maybe one that we're not doing as well, and we may want to cover that here as well, is to generate one. And we want to generate one in a way that's consistent with what we're doing already. So how do we do that? So the first spot to look is when we say method handler is not null. So I think if I come up to rocks here and I just say now search in the current project, we say var result What's this? These are with the properties. Yeah, it's going to happen in two spots, I believe. So requires a projected delegate. Okay, so hold on. So when a method has over 16 parameters, or one of them has optional arguments. Now, what does that have a consequence of them? Mock projected delegate, projected callback delegate. Now, we don't care about the return value because that's just return values. And we don't care about pointers. What does delegate builder build do though? Yeah, so in this case, maybe that's not true because this isn't a case of projection. I mean, we are going to project a delegate. So it's kind of a mixed case here in that we do need to define a custom delegate. So projection for namespace, projected callback delegate name, and then that. And where does that get set? So if we go look at the method model, if it requires a projected delegate, we get the method to display string, and then we say get hash. Okay, so we could do that here as well. What does requires projected delegate? So if ref kind or out, or the type is esoteric, yeah, we have a couple of other cases here. So we have the case where you have more than that, or you have more than that. And then this would generate it fine. And then when we say get the projected delegate, projected callback, method parameters, method constraints. Arguably, this may just work if we change more to the point, if method was a method symbol in the second, yeah, extensions dot is changed to detect these cases, then it may just fall all the way through the entire pipeline, which is exactly what we want. So yeah, I think that might be the way to do this. Okay, so let's give that a whirl. This is called in a lot of spots, but what we really care about is in the, oh, well, wow, I have no tests around this. Yeah, that's cute. That's really cute. So I don't have any tests for this. So let's make some. Requires projected delegate tests. So we're going to change that. Do I have something here that has a little bit more? Yeah, because this is kind of really what we want to do. Mostly, I believe. Probably. So, except I don't care about the class name. So we have a target in here, we have void. In this case, we would say requires projected delegate to be false. So let's just do that test case first. So we're going to get the, and I repeat this code a lot, but I like just having everything in the test file. So what we want to say here now is requires name type symbol, parameters type. Why? Oh, I grabbed the wrong thing. Okay, so we want something that actually gives us a method symbol, not a type symbol. Get method symbol. Okay. And this probably just looks through and says, find the method declaration syntax and then give that back as a method symbol. Yes, that's what we wanted. And so now we can say this. And so let's run this first. And that passes as expected. Okay. What's the next one? Let's close that. So any parameters that have a ref or an out or is a pointer, essentially. So if we say here ref int a, now this should be true. And it is, okay? If we say out int a, it should be true. And also if we say unsafe void. Now this one is going to be a bummer because we need to do something like is pointer tests. Yes. I guess it doesn't matter if we're actually saying here, okay, fine, whatever. So these should all be passing tests. And they are. Good. We also want to say a return, but a normal for some definition of normal return. Int. And that should be false. And then we want to say here, what happens when we have something that is also esoteric? So we say public unsafe int star. Ooh, we're going to have to, this one would be true. This one, we could say default. Let's see what happens. Okay, they pass. Now, here's the case that we really want to address. Well, there's two. What happens if we say int a equals 3? In this case, we want it to be true. We also want, can we just go grab that from here? Yes, I believe we can. So now we want this to be a really long method. But what we're going to do is, through the magic of raw string literals, we're going to be able to do that. And so now we can just say in here, that. Isn't that cute? Why do we have a public class? We never, okay, fine. Take off public class A and replace with nothing. Nope, 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 nope. Current document, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. So now we have a public class target here, the public class void, and let's pretty this up just a little bit. There. Okay. And so this should also give us a true. So now we should have two failing cases. And we do. Okay, so that's good. So now what we want to say here is do, whoops, self parameters count or length is greater than 16, or now we can say self.parameters any, where has explicit default value. Now if I do this, those should at least pass. And they do. Good. Now I'm kind of curious, because when we say requires projected delegate, there is also that method that says get the projected delegate. And I don't know in here if we are putting all of the optional arguments on, which is something we would want. So we would want this to be something that comes back and says, here are your optional arguments as well. So I'm just curious though. I'm going to probably wrap this episode up at this point and continue on with this in the next one. But what I'm curious about is at this point, what does this do? Yeah, it fails. And does it fail because we have, yes, so now we put in that. We put in a delegate that has all those, but did we actually catch that change here? Yes, we now put the cast there, and there should be 2 down here, 1 and 2. You know what? Let's end this episode on a potentially positive note. Well, that passes now. Okay, so that's encouraging. That does not mean we are done. I need to put a test in for integration tests. I need to make sure that everything still works and that we're not screwing something up. And we do have the side thing now where I want to make sure that if I run into a method with optional arguments, which I am really surprised I have not run into yet, unless, no, because I have. I know I have. Now that I think about it, I definitely have. And I think I kind of just said we don't care. So maybe, okay. Yeah. I think that's correct. We don't care about this case. So let me take that off. That's one we don't care about. And the reason why is because I think the way everything falls out is when you do the expectations, we detect that there's a default value. We put that in there as like an is default or whatever, so we know that that's what you meant. I think it just all kind of just naturally falls by the wayside. And that's right, because when we do the extensions, we will put the default values in there, and that's where it matters. And then when we define the members on the mock type, we just put those in there. This is only coming up in those callbacks. And so I think we solved it that way. So I think, yeah, I don't need to worry about that, but I'm going to do all that work off camera and making sure that I didn't screw anything up. If it gets to a point, it's like, oh, whoops, this actually caused some side effects I didn't expect, then I'll start the next episode with, well, we got some more work to do. Or I'll start it with, hey, this just fixed everything and we're good. So next episode will be the conclusion. Thank you. And wait. No. Back up. I said in a previous episode I was going to do that, not do that anymore. So I got some stuff to do this morning, and my son is going off to camp today. He's volunteering for a week as a counselor. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bike ride in and some other stuff. And then either before we drop him off or after, I'm going to do that work. And then I'll add on an episode at the end or add on, not an episode, but a conclusion as to where this is going. So that's what I'm going to do for this. So we'll see where this ends up. Okay, just a quick update. I got it all working. The number of errors went down by 1 for Entity Framework, so it definitely helped that. I put an integration test in, so I will commit all this work and consider this issue to be closed. It was kind of a nice one to fix because all I had to do at the end of the day was, if I come back to, was it this one? Yeah, is just put this in. That was it. That was the only thing I needed to do. And everything else just fell out as a consequence of that. And so it's kind of nice. I remember hearing somebody say that, reuse is not the goal of software, that should be a primary goal. And I kind of get it, that you may try to build something that is reusable but completely unusable because it's trying to cater to too much, and then it becomes unwieldy to manage. But at the same time, if you can get an abstraction right, if you can make something that is reusable, then why not? Or if it is a good place to change something like this was here, and then everything just works great. So yeah, so this one is fixed. I'm probably going to spend time this afternoon. I'm going to leave soon to drop my son off at camp, but I'm probably going to spend time this afternoon just looking at the code generation thing, because it takes so long for them to run and stuff. So I'll do all of that off camera and try to fix that or address it and make sure that works, because I do want to make sure that I'm not in some way missing things because I thought all of them pass and then it runs. That would not be good. So I definitely want to look at that. And then the next thing, I don't know, there's a couple more bugs in the list, and I'll take a look at those and queue them up next time. Thank you all for watching. Leave comments and questions below. See you in the next episode.